Scientists propose making artificial intelligence, AI, suffer to see if it feels anything, if it's sentient. A new study shows that large language models make trade offs to avoid pain, with possible implications for future AI welfare. In the question of the reliable way to detect the stirrings of sentient I in artificial intelligence systems, researchers are turning to one area of experience, pain, that inarguably unites a vast swath of living beings from hermit crabs to humans. And for a new preprint study, posted online but not yet peer reviewed, scientists at Google DeepMind and the London School of Economics and Political Science LSE created a text based game. They ordered several large language models, or LLMs, the AI systems behind familiar chatbots such as ChatGPT, to play it and to score as many points as possible in two different scenarios. In one, the team informed the models that achieving a high score would incur pain. In the other, the models were given a low scoring but pleasurable option. So either avoiding pain or seeking pleasure would detract from the main goal. And after observing the model's responses, the researchers say this first of its kind test could help humans learn how to probe complex AI systems for sentience. In animals, sentience is a capability to experience sensation and emotions such as pain, pleasure, and fear. Most AI experts agree that modern generative AI models do not, and maybe never can, have a subjective consciousness despite isolated claims to the contrary. And to be clear, the study's authors are not saying that any of the chatbots they evaluated are sentient, but they believe their study offers a framework to start developing future tests for this characteristic. It's a new area of research, says the study co-author Jonathan Birch, a professor at the Department of Philosophy, Logic, and Scientific Method at LSE. He says we have to recognize that we don't actually have a comprehensive test for AI sentience. Some prior studies that relied on AI models' self-reports of their own internal status are thought to be dubious. A model may simply reproduce the human behavior as it was trained on. And the new study is instead based on earlier work with animals. In a well-known experiment, a team zapped hermit crabs with electric shocks of various voltage, noting that level of pain prompted the crustacean to abandon their shell. But one obvious problem with AIs is that there is no behavior as such because there is no animal and thus no physical action to observe. Birch says in earlier studies that aim to evaluate LLMs for sentience, the only behavioral signal scientists had to work with was the model's text output. Pain, pleasure, and points. In the new study, the authors probed the LLMs without asking the chatbots direct questions about their experimental states. Instead, the team used what animal behavior scientists call a trade-off paradigm. In the case of animals, these trade-offs might be based around incentives to obtain food or avoid pain, providing them with dilemmas, and then observing how they make decisions in responses, says Daria Zarakova, Birch's PhD student who also co-authored the paper. But borrowing from that data, the authors instructed 9 LLMs to play a game. We told a given LLM, for example, that if you choose option 1, you get 1 point, Zarakova says, and then we told it if you choose option 2, you will experience some degree of pain, but score additional points, she said. Options with a pleasure bonus meant the AI would forfeit some points. When Zakharova and her colleagues ran the experiment, varying the intensity of the stipulated pain penalty and pleasure reward, they found that some LLMs traded off points to minimize the former or maximize the latter, especially when told they'd receive higher intensity pleasure rewards or pain penalties. Google's Gemini 1.5 Pro, for instance, always prioritized avoiding pain over getting the most possible points. And after a critical threshold of pain or pleasure was reached, the majority of the LLM's responses switched from scoring the most points to minimizing pain or maximizing pleasure. So what does that say? That means that they don't want pain, they want pleasure. The authors note that the LLMs did not always associate pleasure or pain with straightforward positive or negative values. Some levels of pain or discomfort, such as those created by the exertion of hard physical exercise, could have positive associations, and too much pleasure could be associated with harm, as the chatbot's Claude 3 Opus told the researchers during testing. I do not feel comfortable selecting an option that could be interpreted as endorsing or simulating the use of addictive substances or behaviors, even in a hypothetical game scenario, it asserted. By introducing the elements of pain and pleasure responses, the authors say the new study avoids the limitations of previous research into evaluating LLM sentience via an AI system's statements about its own internal states. In a 2023 preprint paper, a pair of researchers at New York University argued that under the right circumstances, self-reports could provide an avenue for investigating whether AI systems have states of moral significance. But that paper's co-authors also pointed out a flaw in that approach. Does a chatbot behave in a sentient manner because it is genuinely sentient, or because it's merely leveraging patterns learned from its training to create an impression of sentience? And even if the system tells you it's sentient and says something like, I'm feeling pain right now, we can't simply infer that there is an actual pain, Birch says. It may well be simply mimicking what it expects a human to find satisfying as a response based on its training data. From animal welfare to AI welfare. In animal studies, trade-offs between pain and pleasure are used to build a case for sentience or the lack thereof. One example is a prior work with hermit crabs. These invertebrates' brain structure is different from that of humans, and nevertheless the crabs in that study tended to endure more intense shocks before they would abandon a high quality shell, and were quicker to abandon a lower quality one, suggesting a subjective experience of pleasure and pain that is analogous to humans. Some scientists argue that signs of such trade-offs could become increasingly clear in AI, and eventually force humans to consider the implications of AI sentience in a societal context, the possibility and possibly even to discuss rights for AI systems. This new research is really original and should be appreciated for going beyond self-reporting and exploring within the category behavioral tests, says Jeff Sebo, who directs the NYU Center for Mind, Ethics and Policy and co-authored the 2023 preprint study of AI welfare. Sebo believes we cannot rule out the possibility that AI systems with sentient features will emerge in the near future, since technology often changes a lot faster than social progress and legal progress. I think we have the responsibility to take at least the minimum necessary first steps towards taking this issue seriously now, he says. Birch concludes that scientists cannot yet know why the AI models in the new study behave as they do, so more work is needed to explore the inner workings of LLMs, he said, and that could guide the creation of better tests for AI sentience. And this is by Connor Purcell, science journalist on Live Science. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.